This is a Sports Catastrophe production. Hey there, ho there. It's Jeff Cutter, and welcome you to another Sports Catastrophe on this day. And on this day, September the 30th, 1990, one of baseball's greatest stadiums and long-standing stadiums at that played their final baseball game. Yes, this is Comiskey Park, the old Comiskey Park, and not that shallow one for Chicago. Guaranteed rate field. So anyway, Comiskey Park served home to the Chicago White Sox from 1910 to 1990. It hosted games in 4 World Series and more than 6,000 games. It actually was home to boxing, in which Joe Louis beat James Braddock, aka Cinderella Man, in 8 rounds. That had Joe Louis's 11-year run as heavyweight champion confirmed. The Chicago Cardinals of the NFL would play at Comiskey Park if they weren't playing at either Normal Park, Soldier Field, or Wrigley Field. The Chicago Cardinals won their last championship in 1947 on Comiskey Park soil. Of course, that's the last quote-unquote championship the Cardinals have ever won. They got to Super Bowl. They won the NFC title in 2009, but that doesn't really count. Comiskey would also play part in the North American Soccer League for Chicago and would actually play host to the final edition of the Soccer Bowl, which was the last NASL season. Chicago beat Toronto in both games to get the title. So anyway, it was a great time, all that. It was actually named White Sox Park in 1910, but by 1913 it changed to Comiskey Park, and then it was restored in 1962 for some reason. And White Sox Park was changed back to Comiskey Park in 1976. Comiskey was modern. It was the third concrete and steel stadium to be built in the major leagues. Most of it was made with wood and all that. Actually seated 32,000, which was a record at that time. In its heyday, it would hit 50,000, but after the war, it dipped down to the last number was 43,951. The park was pitcher friendly because it was 362 to the foul poles and 420 to center. It was basically favorable to defensive teams. And it helped the White Sox because they had solid defense and short hits. No player ever hit 100 home runs in Comiskey Park. The record is held by Carlton Fisk with 94. The first game happened in 1910 on Canada Day, as they took on the St. Louis Browns and lost 2-0. The World Series was held 4 times. First time was 1917 when the White Sox took care of New York New York Giants, aka San Francisco, 4-2. Comiskey would host the World Series in 1918 because the Cubs needed to borrow it for its larger seating capacity. But the Red Sox won the World Series in 6 games. Of course, 1919, Comiskey hosted some games of the Black Sox series against the Reds. 5-3. It was there. In 1959, the White Sox finally got back to the World Series and would lose in 6 games to the LA Dodgers. The White Sox would only be 1-2 on Comiskey's Hallowed Field, and the Dodgers became the first West Coast team to win a World Series when they clinched Game 6 in 59. Comiskey Park saw postseason action in 83 when the White Sox played the ALCS against the Baltimore Orioles. Shockingly, they would lose that series to Baltimore, even though that the White Sox were really good that year. Comiskey hosted 3 All-Star games. The first was 1933, the first ever All-Star game, in fact, because it began as a promotion on Chicago's lakefront and the Century of Progress Exposition. Babe Ruth got a home run and the American League won. This stadium would also host the 1950 World Series. 1950 All-Star game. And Ted Williams collided with the outfield wall that broke his elbow and ended his season. And then he would go out to fight in Korea. And this was also hosting the 50th anniversary All-Star game in 1983. Everyone remembers that I even did a thing about this All-Star game when Fred Lynn hit his grand slam, and it was amazing. So anyway, what was powerful about Comiskey Park was the characteristics. The pinwheels on the exploding scoreboard, which was installed in 1961. All that. Bill Feck had another innovation, the picnic area, created by replacing portions of the left field walls with screens and setting up picnic tables under the seating areas. The concept was extended to right field. And in fact, even installed a shower behind the speaker horns in center field bleachers for fans to cool off on hot summer days. The Comiskey was where Nancy Faust, who was a famous organist, would play. And starting in 1976, she would be the first to really play at a sporting event. The famous na 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 hey goodbye. And what people forget at Comiskey Park was that Harry Carey was a broadcaster there for the White Sox. He would actually conduct Take Me Out to the Ball Game. And anyway, he was an icon, and he was popular at Comiskey Park before he moved across town for the Cubs. But this stadium also had one of the biggest blunders, Disco Demolition Night. I don't think I covered Disco Demolition Night for a thing, but basically, disco was starting to get a little too crazy for everyone's taste. Steve Dahl, who was a disc jockey who was kicked out of his station because they were turning into a disco station, decided to start an anti-disco revolt. And it picked up a lot of steam. So Mike Feck, Bill's son, decided to have a thing for 98 cents. Someone can bring a disco record in and they'll blow it up between games of a doubleheader. Unfortunately, it went off terribly. The explosion was beautiful, but basically the fans who came to the game were not really White Sox fans. They were just hippies and all that, the rock fans. So anyway, it was terrible. All that. Steve Dahl would become a legend in Chicago for his stuff, and disco technically fell off the thing. So anyway, the Whites, it was a good stadium and all that. So anyway, Comiskey Park was falling apart, and they needed new money for a stadium. It was such in bad taste that the White Sox nearly went to Tampa Bay, but thankfully the Illinois governor did say that he would give the money needed. So anyway, but the White Sox moving to St. Petersburg was huge because Tropicana Field was kind of built. It was constructed by St. Petersburg to lure a major league team to Florida. And the final game was September 3rd, 1990, as I said, of course, on this day. White Sox beat the Mariners 2-1. Richard Daley, mayor of Chicago, threw out the opening pitch. Minnie Minoso delivered the layup card to the umpires, and Nancy Phelps played for the crowd during the final game. And Comiskey's grandson was on hand too. Bobby Thigpen got Harold Reynolds to ground out, and the game was over. COmiskey Park would be demolished in 1991, and the process took all summer to complete. The site of the old park was turned into a parking lot to serve those attending Gertrude Field. It was amazing and all that. The scoreboard was a legendary thing. All that. So, yeah. It was amazing. There were a lot of no-hitters hit in Chicago at Comiskey Park. Ed Walsh, Vern Kennedy, Bill Dietrich, Bob Feller, the legendary opening day no-hitter 1940, Bob Keegan, Bill Munn-Paquette, Joe Horland, and Jack Morris, who did his April 84 versus the White Sox on NBC on national TV. Lots of famous concerts and all that, boxing, soccer. So yeah, great times to had by all in the Chicago area. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.